What's up, guys? I bet you're expecting to see Alien Covenant this week, but guess what? We don't know how time works. So we're covering a very special episode of the new Alien movie, Alien Romulus. To end Xeno Month, we're gonna do. Oh no, there's another episode next week where we do cover Alien. It's the last episode for us, but it's all the new episodes for
Yeah,
you. It
it's
doesn't matter. What
Alien.
do you guys care? Jumping
Come
in order on
on.
the playlist.
Yeah.
Also, you guys have really been commenting on the last stuff, so that's pretty cool. Check out our deep dives if you haven't yet. They're like video essays. They go a little bit more depth. And then, yeah, I mean, you guys have been going through the episodes, so I won't tell you to keep doing that. Or keep doing it.
Please.
Share with your friends. Anyway, let's get into the Xenonith.
Let's rom on the
We're talking
lust.
Romulus.
Romulus
Yeah.
from 2020. From 2024, 2 days ago. It was directed by Finde Alvarez. It stars
There's no way that's right. But...
Kaylee Spaney? What the fuck? David Johnson? And it was written by a committee. Josh, will you tell us what this movie is about? And if you reference another Alien movie, you're in a lot of trouble.
Oh man, I don't even. If we take out all the other Alien movies, it's just 5 teens who have bad lives, and that's the whole film. So,
I mean, if we break down all the Alien movies, it's about
Right.
some lady who has.
It's another Alien movie.
that is true. Okay, so it is about 5 teens, or I guess young people. I don't know if they're teens.
Kinda. They're young
They live
adults.
They live on a pretty bad Weyland-Yutani mining colony. They're trying to get off. They hear a signal in space. They're like, "Oi, that ship might have cryo chambers for us."
Yeah.
One of them is a Chad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
It's good.
appropriate.
It's good we're spending this much time on the first scene.
Well, it's the only good part, so I'm really
Whoa.
milking
Oh, an
it.
interesting already a divide. Oh my gosh. The only good part.
So yeah, they have to go get stuff off this ship, but there's more to this ship than it seems. In fact, you might find some alien Romuluses.
Yeah. Some Romulans.
Whoa! Guys, do you remember? I don't know if they still do these, but they used to have these like friendly versions of songs. They're called Kid Bops, where they got a bunch of teens to do terrible
yeah.
covers of.
I remember
good
Kid
songs.
Bop.
Oh yeah.
Alien Romulus. Let's talk about it. I don't think you had a very different opinion than us.
These kids.
Seems like me and Josh are on the same side on this one.
Well, I mean, I thought it was cool. It was like, it had like a lot of like throwbacks to like the original movies, and I don't know. I wasn't really ever bored. I liked the visual stylings of it. Were there parts where I wasn't really paying attention for a while? Absolutely. But is that true for every Alien movie besides 1 and 2? Absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with just saying I liked it. I'm not saying it's amazing, but I definitely didn't hate it at all. I thought it was a worthy entry into the series, for sure.
I'm gonna say, and like before we start, guys, usually we either know what movie we've seen or we have a pretty good idea, and we'll joke about it in the group chats. But for this one, since it's brand new, we kind of wanted everyone to go in blind. We didn't, so we don't know. Like, I didn't know what anyone else has thought. We've kind of gotten hints, but yeah, I think that I started off this movie and I kind of liked it, and there was a little bit of like clunkiness at the beginning, and as it went on, I started to hate it a little bit more and more. Which we'll talk about. Josh, what did you think? We might go into spoilers pretty early.
Yeah, I did
Before
not.
we do that, Josh, just general impressions.
Oh yeah, no, I did not care for it. Kids Bop is a funny comparison. You weren't here for this, William, but well, you were here for some of it. I think maybe we covered all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I think I actually was. I was not a part of that
and
series.
and we talked about like the themes and stuff of everyone, because obviously those movies are pretty strong thematically. And we got to the 2003 remake, the Jessica Biel one, and we essentially landed on like oh wait, there is no theme. The movie's like so devoid of like wanting to say anything other than just like look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah. And that was the vibe I cover of this. They're like, look, these things you like from other movies.
It's first of all, Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel's great. Don't listen to that liar.
Well, go watch that review because that's the conclusion. You came to that conclusion, by the way, not me.
Just because it doesn't have a theme.
I mean, it still has some. I remember seeing it as a kid, and it was like pretty visceral. It was like
it's got some.
I snuck
this
into
movie
that
actually has some
in
good stuff
theaters,
in
and I
it
remember
too.
feeling really gross sneaking into it as a child.
Yeah. See, I think okay, so this movie starts and guys, it's been I don't know, it's 5 minutes. I know it's real short, but because this movie is brand new, we don't want to spoil it for you. I would say, even though I hated it, it's hard to say to go watch it. Just because of something that happens later on where they used artificial intelligence, which we're not a fan of, and that's taking jobs away from filmmakers. It's hard to recommend this movie. That's overall my big thing about it. It's that every little
They
thing
used
made
AI?
me more mad. They used AI
Well,
on
they
a very
yeah,
specific
Oh,
character.
yeah,
they resurrected a dead actor for the
which
film,
always looks weird.
and-
Wait, I
and
know that was AI though.
Yeah.
It was it.
Which
Well,
is just more
yeah.
ironic the more you think
Yeah.
about it, isn't it, you guys? Isn't it?
Well, yeah, taking someone's job even more ironic.
Don't
But
zoom in your face to the camera.
I think if you like, I don't know, William liked it, so if you trust William,
It
I'm
is
very
okay. It
trustworthy.
is. It is kind of the Rogue One thing, and I do think
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
I
of
like
people
Rogue
like
One.
Rogue One. I hate Rogue One, but kind of like
But
what
this is
William's
William's
saying.
last episode. For
You know, it's a
Rogue
lot
One.
easier to hate something than
If-
to find an appreciation. I want our listeners to know that. Going
if
into
you-
this episode.
If you aren't paying attention, Rogue One looks like a Star Wars movie, and if you aren't really paying attention to this, it's like, yeah, it looks like an alien movie. They shoot at aliens. That's fine,
But
you
see,
know.
Okay, well, let's get into it. So it begins, and I think one of the things I really liked about the beginning, especially it starts off on Earth, or not on Earth, but on some random colony that they've terraformed. You have the main character.
Like a shitty mining planet.
She's like this girl, and she has her brother who's a replicant. And they've known each other since birth. It's obviously not her real brother, but it's her. She treats him like a brother. They're trying to get off world to kind of go to a place where they're not dying in the mines. And then the lady is very reminiscent of of the Blade Runner. It got the Blade Runner feel where they're like, oh, you owe way more hours than you thought. The company just raised it, which I thought was great. It was a great way to kind of take us back into that world of corporate not caring about the people, which, oh yeah, movie, you did that.
Yeah.
And so I thought all that was great. And then while she's kind of sad, she meets someone and they're like, hey, come catch up with us. We're your old friends and we have something that might help you. And then she's like, okay, let me go over there. And she walks like this. And then
she used her legs to get over there.
Down the street.
Gets there. Oh, the Josh Sal in description. She gets there, and that's to me I don't know what's going on with horror films lately, but do they know that characters can be likable and that makes us care a lot more when they die? Because no character in this movie is likable. They're such assholes to
I will say, I'm very whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'll have a question about that
friends.
too, really quick. This is my one. Since you guys are going to be having complaints, here's my one complaint. Well,
your one complaint?
Well, I mean, I probably have
That's
more,
crazy.
but this is my main one. But so she has this reconnection with these folks that she goes. It takes her 5 minutes to walk to their house. It's not like they're long lost friends.
Yeah.
But if she's so lonely and having such a hard time on this mining planet, why wasn't she hanging out with these guys the whole time? Why was she isolated? We didn't really get to learn enough about why she wasn't hanging out with these guys, why they had to reconnect, because they live within a few blocks. I thought that was weird, which is it's hard to describe unless you've seen it, but it's that was kind of strange.
It's also weird their relationship to each other, because they kind of act sometimes they've known each other since kids, but sometimes they're bringing up stuff that they should have already dealt with 10 years ago if they've known each other for so long. It's it's a very clunky. And then so they introduce my least favorite character, which is the bully, and he it has that alien resurrection thing where it's no character can act like a human. They have to act like a Looney Tunes cartoon version of emotion.
He's I hate robots.
Just
this is
my character.
I hate him.
This is my thoughts. Very Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. And everyone's introduced. And so the idea, and I do like the idea is that orbiting this colony is this old Weyland-Yutani ship. And they, and so they're let's go up there and we can, because they've all been denied access to this new planet. They said, let's go up there, we'll steal the sleeping pods, and then we can get there ourselves, which is another weird thing that doesn't really explain. Like, okay, so if you just get there, you're allowed to live and work?
Yeah.
Because wouldn't they be like, nah, guys, you go back to the mines, what are you doing?
It was a weird plot, yeah.
It is
I didn't
very
quite understand what they were
tenuous,
doing on the ship. I didn't know what they were trying to break in and do.
It would have been cooler if they like, oh, we have to steal like their Weyland Yutani IDs so that we can go to this planet. So they're looking for individual humans.
I thought I just missed a line of dialogue, but if you guys didn't know what they were up to, I guess that was just poorly explained.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of okay. They essentially, I believe, generally the idea is this planet's like 9 years away, and it's supposed to be like a pretty good planet to live because it's not like owned by Weyland Yutani. It's just like settler colonialism, whatever.
Oh, yeah, she said that to the lady who's like denying her the ability to leave. I think, right?
No, yeah. Whenever they talk about it, she's like, "Oh, I'm headed to Paradise Planet." I don't, whatever. But she's like, "Oh, but and our ship could get there, but like 5 human beings or whatever cannot like live in this ship for 9 years because we'll just die. So we need like cryo stuff." And we don't, and if we could just be in like that, then Andy could just like watch. Andy's the robot. Andy's the
Oh yeah. Also, strike number 1. His name should have been Edgar, Eddie, Eduardo. Anything that starts with an E, not A.
Yeah, that I didn't care for that. They
alien franchise.
Wait, what's wrong with the letter?
But
because his name's Andy instead of an E name, because it should be David.
ABCD. Yeah.
And if we're being real technical, it should be Frank. And then they should be like, oh, that guy Walter, his name was actually Edgar.
Maybe his name was Indy.
He's the new one. Like, listen, if we're going to reference everything.
You were mishearing it. It was ENDY.
Yeah, that's it's kind of one of those where this movie references all the other movies, but it gets a lot wrong. I will talk about it, but essentially they're trying to steal the cryopods from this station so they can like just put them on their ship, and then they could just sleep for 9 years to like wake up in this planet. It is kind of weird that this ship is just kind of there and no one much savvier than like a bunch of 20-year-olds noticed it, but that's fine. Like, I don't care about that.
I also thought that was another missed opportunity. It would have been cool if like halfway through we're in spoiler territory, so halfway through they get weapons, they just find them. I thought it would have been cool if like, what if there was another like a group of hardcore mercenaries that are there to scavenge, they have the gun, and then maybe more people could have been
wouldn't like Weyland Yutani people would be trying to get there too?
You're telling me that this
like
or
like there's got to be organized crime on this planet, like it's just It
also, we forgot to mention this, but at the beginning we see Weyland Yutani on this space station when it's still active, and they pull something out of space, and then they realize like, oh, it's the alien fossilized, and then we find out later it's the original alien, which we'll talk about, but we know that there's at least an alien on ship. So then they're like, okay, we're gonna go there, but we need Andy because he's like,
he's the only one who can like turn on the systems.
I like the backstory of Andy. He's an old Weyland Yutani system that they found like disposed in the mines, and his parents her parents turned. Her name's Rain. Rain's parents turned him on and like kind of got him to protect her. So then when they died, he's been her guardian brother, but he's malfunctioning. So like he has weird hands, or like he like at one point they kick him and he can't stop
very
shaking.
Slow.
Like that's just kind of what is malfunction.
Yeah,
they need him to open the doors of that Weyland Yutani ship so they can grab the shit that they need. So they're like, we need Andy to come, which again makes it even less sense. Like if that was me and I walked into like this podcast and like William was like, I don't want to see your dog, I hate him. I'd be like, well, William, I'm not gonna be on the podcast. Like it's pretty easy. Like you need me, like
oh, you're talking about how that guy
needs you.
Where it's like
that
guy's like a huge dick to the robot, and he's like I'm gonna kill you, and it's like, hey man, you need us. If I was Rain, I'd be like, yeah, I'll go help you. That dude's staying here.
Right, and the extent of it is like he doesn't like robots because they hurt his parents. That's it. That's the extent of the explanation and the character development that we get for that guy.
And I don't know if you guys noticed, and this is one of those things where, while I would say this movie doesn't really have much in the way of themes, it does have a lot in the way of references. Every teen is like doing a look. Like one of them has a shaved bald head, one of them has the Ellen Ripley like 70s haircut, one of them has the red bandana like Vietnam, you know, because the aliens, and it's very like, oh, they're all like, now they don't act like that, they don't like typify those movies, but
I don't think we need to make up.
What was the bandana?
In this one. Although I did wonder.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I did wonder if they like at the beginning. I did not make any.
I didn't make any connections, but I was like, wait, the red bandana. I was like, oh, they all have.
But by the end, I was like, wait, is that girl bald because of the alien colonies?
And then that one guy's Michael Biet, you know, it's just like, okay.
So then they're like, okay,
it's all very on the nose.
And I'm kind of on board. Like, I hate dumb characters, but like, you're always gonna have some dumb characters. We just defended Prometheus, so who are we?
We kind of defended Covenant, and that's the dumbest characters of all. So I kind of get that.
Whoa, we got a new challenger. So they
until now that
they get to the planet, and one of the things I really like is at this point the references are in world. They are. It feels like Weyland-Yutani. It feels like aliens. It doesn't necessarily reference anything, but it's like every ship you see feels like a Weyland-Yutani ship. So that all feels like very good, very lived in. So they get to the ship, they start going through it, and then again another weird move, which again is not explained. And I think it's like one of those things where I guess they didn't think we were gonna ask this question, but we did. So like they start turning stuff on. And the first thought that came into my mind is like, wait, you're turning stuff on. Isn't this going to make your signal that no one could find like
on
even
the ship?
Bigger? Like why?
Yeah.
Because
on the Weyland ship.
On the ship. They have like the masks. It's like, why are you turning stuff on? If anything,
right. There wasn't really a heist plan.
Out of there.
Yeah, I don't think.
And we didn't really know what each.
Yeah.
It's very.
Right, because like a heist film, you've got to like play your jobs. Like this is the guy who can get into a thing and like steal the deal. Here's the guy who can access the shit. Here's Mother Hacker. But it's like they just were like, we're gonna steal some shit. You can't do that in a heist. You got to know what everyone's up to.
Especially like, what if there had been a couple of people that were in the crowd sheep? What if there was some people who were still protecting it? What if there was like they don't know that it's abandoned? They could have a million replicants in there, just kind of doing stuff because they're not going to be reading on anything, and so it's like you guys really didn't come prepared at all. Like, and that's why I was kind of confused because it starts off in a very cool scene where they're like crawling through the pipes and there's no
the gravity purge.
So there's like stuff.
That was cool.
And then there's the gravity purge where everything drops, and then like so we know that. Every once in a while, the gravity's going to turn on, but then they get out of that little area, and they just stand up and start turning lights on and shit. I was like, wait, are we being secretive?
What did you think about the gravity purge, Josh? Did you like gravity purge or not?
I liked it at the beginning. I don't necessarily like how it comes back. I could say that about a lot of... Because I actually do really like what they find is a sealed cryo chamber.
Yeah.
And they need to steal... all like the cryo fuel or whatever to basically, but as they're doing that, everything that was being like kept in like, you know, frozen starts melting, and we as the audience see, oh no, face huggers.
See, and also like that's another weird thing is that, at least from my understanding, I always thought the cryo chambers were like a dime a dozen. I didn't know that they were like this hard to find.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that as a conceit, and I would actually argue this is probably one of the like the most effective action scene in the movie.
With the water.
I don't know if you guys agree. With the facehuggers slowly thawing, and then like because Andy's there. Stuck.
That was great. I love that.
Because he looks awesome. Like it, and it looks creepy. I like that. Yeah.
So they find. So when they're walking through, they find this robot, and then they go into this place. They're looking for energy because the crowd sheep doesn't have enough to get them to the Miracle Planet. And so they're like, hey, we need to get more energy. So they find it in this room. And that's when they turn everything on. And like the temperature starts rising. So stuff starts melting, including face huggers. And so they're stuck in there. And so the two main leads of the girls, they come out and they're like, oh, we can help you if we give you the chip to the robot that we found earlier. So they take that chip, put it in Andy, and he's resetting.
Right.
And so he's frozen. So he can't do anything. And then there's something in the water as the face huggers kind of come through. And again, that's like I feel like Alvarez really
They're the
loves
main
face
alien.
huggers because
Yeah.
they're like the main
They,
antagonists of.
it is weird. Yeah, I would actually say, and one of the weirdest things about this movie is, I would say facehuggers are in about 45 minutes of it, the actual alien in maybe 10 minutes, and then something else later, and we'll get to that. But a lot of facehuggers, not a lot of
one thing that I read
aliens,
about this movie
strangely.
before watching it was like how influenced by not only Alien Isolation, but also just horror video games in general, this movie was influenced by. It does,
It
and
shows.
I feel like that was kind of the thing that like either you noticed and liked, or you noticed and were like, this is just like the Doom movie from like 2007. And yeah, there were some parts where I was like,
noticed.
okay, I like how you're doing this, and there were some other things that I was like, okay. But it's like the facehuggers are definitely there as like little aliens that you shoot in a video game before you get to like the main monster, and like that's kind of not that cool. But I don't know. I didn't mind the abundance of facehuggers, but I could see that being really annoying to anyone else.
Yeah, I actually thought they were really effective here. You know, in this one scene.
The alien is alien. The alien is the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the facehugger is the alien. So to say the alien's only in there for 10 minutes, he means a xenomorph.
Yeah.
And so that's the part where I liked, because it's like, it felt like he really loved the facehuggers. So to give them more prominence is like, well, we've never really seen them have this much prominence. It's kind of cool to show how deadly they are. So like, again, I'm on board, but then before that, we got to talk about this scene, because it's, again, this is where like I'm already losing the plot. So in that secret planet, only humans
that
can
was
go,
so
I
tacked
guess?
on. That was so tacked on.
Involved.
Yeah.
And so then there's like this part where they're like walking, and like we know that something's going on with the brother, where we kind of suspect that he can't go. And then the love interest to the Rain Girl and the Cockney guy, they just tell Andy, and they're like, hey man, you're not gonna go up there. She's gonna leave you behind because she hates you. You're just a robot to her. That scene makes the brother so unlikable that I do not care if he lives or dies for the rest of the movie. And B, it doesn't even make sense in the universe, because these characters, like, people treat the robots, except for Rain, even Ripley, well, even like Hicks, treated Bishop like he was just a robot. Like, they played around with him. They did not care about him at all. So it'd be like telling this cup, like, hey, you're not coming with me to the house. Like, why do you? I'm not gonna tell him. He doesn't care. It's an inanimate object.
The boyfriend in Prometheus hated David for inexplicable reasons.
Right.
Now David does torture him to death, but like, he didn't know that.
It just seems like a cruel moment to get a bit of exposition that doesn't even really come to play. And then we also find out in this scene that the reason, like we talked about it earlier, the reason that the Cockney guy doesn't like Andy is because there was a replicant who had to make a decision to save 12 people and let 2 people die,
Classic
or let everyone
scenario.
die and not save anyone. And he chose to save 2 people. And Andy's like, or in this guy's like shocking Andy, he's like kicking him, he wants to kill him, which is going to come in very handy in about 10 seconds when we see if he's going to ever leave anyone behind. And so now let's get back to, but like those 2 parts were just character moments that I just hated.
And I feel like there would have been no way that like that wouldn't have come in conversation between Rain and Andy at any time before, and Andy would have definitely been like, my prime directive is your safety, and I think you need to get to this planet, so I will do anything to help you get there, and it's okay that you have to sacrifice me. Like, I feel like Andy would have figured that out on his own. Like, it didn't really make any, it was such like a random, just like, let's add some drama here, like for no reason.
Yeah.
Like,
it's such a, and it also like, it doesn't really come back in a way that like,
I might not remember.
So
it half comes back.
It becomes Rain's story that she was going to leave Andy behind. But then, okay, so then the facehuggers attack. It's a great sequence. It's all red. It's all red, and we're not going to talk about red.
Like the other ones, like Prometheus and Covenant and 4 and 3. I will say this movie, I know it might be divisive on how the aesthetic is, but I loved how this movie looked. I thought this movie looked fucking badass. Yeah. Yeah.
It looks
So
great.
good.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah.
No, I think it looks really good. Which
Yeah.
all the I'll say right now, while we're talking about good stuff, all the production design,
Yeah.
costumes, even the hair, even though it's a little derivative, but we'll get there.
Mhm.
It all looks great, and I think that's what makes me even more mad about it. Is well, once we get to the
Yeah.
end, we'll talk about
Like all the
it.
pieces are there. Yeah. It's
But so
very
then they,
yeah.
they get there, and then eventually Andy reboots.
Right. Just
He
in the nick
opens
of
the
time.
door, and then the bald headed lady
Mhm.
gets it.
It's smacked. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then it becomes so then she has it, and then immediately the cocky guy leaves everyone behind and starts taking her like away, and they're like, "Wait, you gotta wait for us."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because Andy's like, oh no, they get to I think this is like Andy immediately starts talking.
Oh yeah,
in
when
a
he comes,
British
when he
accent.
reboots.
Right.
Oh
yeah.
because they gave him an upgrade and now he talks like Ian Holm for some reason. And then you find out that the half android on the floor, they're like, let's open this
Get
guy
Bilbo
up,
on the
see
table.
what he
Right.
knows. And they introduce the ghoulish Rogue One style dead CGI face of Ian Holm.
And the funny part is when I saw that guy on the floor, I was like, "Oh, I bet you that's Ash," because I figured like, "Oh, that'd be Ash's dead body that they kind of saved or moved or whatever."
But it's not.
And little did I know how right and wrong I was about to be.
Yeah, it's
version.
not Ash. It's a different character, and this movie is about a different android.
I know.
Just having to be a
It was
totally
so
different
weird.
actor. Just,
And it never looks
there's
good.
no
all that
reason.
shit always looks so bad.
It looks like his head
and
is
constantly
like
melting
big on his body, and so like he had like a lot of like skin. Yeah.
It looks like when they wouldn't let Jeff Garlin on the set of that one show anymore that he got kicked off of, but they still had to have
What was
his
that?
body show up.
It looks as good as Tony Soprano's mom on The Sopranos, is what it is.
Yeah, that's about right.
And so like Ian Holm explains to him like, "Oh, hey, there's aliens here."
Yeah, and he's like, by the way, she's almost certainly about to like die. And then that's when the guy, the Chav guy's like, "Oh, I gotta protect her." And he takes her.
Even weird, and then Andy says, "Oh, we can't let her on the ship because she'll kill us all." But another weird thing is like up until this point, we had like we knew because we've seen this movie, but like none of the characters knew what was going on.
Yeah,
they didn't know that the facehuggers were there. They didn't know that it was like they pulled a thing out of her, and then like Ian Holm's like, "Oh, it might still have some. It might have already laid its egg or whatever." But like, why is that important? Wouldn't it have been cooler if they pulled it out and they're like, "We saved her. Fine, let's go, let's get out of here." And then they, and like it's cooler that they don't know what the alien is and they're gonna see it themselves. It's and like
we should we should clear like there's a weird. You're watching this scene, right? And he's like, "Oh, we have to do," because that's the thing from the original Alien, and it happens in most of them. Prometheus, so we're like, "No, don't let him in. It's dangerous." You know, even if you don't know an alien's gonna come out, you're like, "This is a contaminant, right?" We find out later there are like dozens of aliens on this ship.
Right.
Like,
the whole colony.
It's just it. One more is really not gonna make things more or less dangerous. It doesn't matter. And he knows, Ian Holm knows that. And he doesn't give a shit. Doesn't really matter to him.
He also sometimes doesn't know that. I don't know. It's a very weird, like, what does Ian Holm know? What is he not keeping from?
He sometimes knows plot
points. I know. I thought his whole character was pretty, like, irrelevant. Like, now that I'm, like, thinking about, like, him in the movie, it's like, he was just there to be there. Like, I don't remember anything important that he said. And also, nothing important really happened in this movie whatsoever.
I also, I don't know if you guys caught this. Just before they go into the room with all the facehuggers, they walk by a monitor which has facehuggers on it, and it's like, wait, so did like none of them just stop to like read the monitor?
Oh, I don't know.
Like, oh, there's like an alien.
There was a monitor with facehuggers on it.
You should be careful. Yeah, before they go to the cryo room when they've turned everything on, there's like a blinking monitor showing like the facehugger like biology.
I don't know if I
it was just like, come on, guys.
it's also like, okay, wait, why are the
They
face
were just
huggers
exposed. They were just
melting?
like in
Because
little
like,
bags. They were just like in little frozen bags. They weren't even like in
Well,
chambers.
I
They
assume,
should have been locked up.
and okay, here's
yeah,
what I don't get, and I
yeah,
promise I do not like to be a Cinema Sins nitpick guy. Like that's not me. Um, but because the explanation Ian Holm gives is like, oh, we found like the alien that Ripley blew out the airlock. Like we found it on like a comet or something. I guess it was like we thought it was dead, so we brought it on board to study it. It came back to life. But they also had a bunch of like de-egged facehuggers
Yeah,
frozen. It's
yeah.
like, where did you get those? You know what I mean? Like,
well, see, Josh, and we're gonna find out as we get later. We want to spoil it yet, but Andrew's theory that Ridley Scott hates aliens, and that Ridley Scott, we'll find out,
I could
had
see that.
quite a
Did
hand
he
in this
actually?
movie.
oh, you think
His hand was
he
all over
suggested
I
the
can
some?
see
vibe at
them
least.
trying to put it, but see, and
Yeah.
Well, he's the producer, but
here's the
that
here's
could
the
mean a
other
lot or
thing
nothing.
is that I think my problem with AI and Ian Home, especially, like, well, it's of course like your guys aren't paying anyone for this. You're trying to cheat out workers, which Hollywood is famous for, so it's annoying. But it also kind of like, and it almost marks a turn in the movie, but it's just so creatively bankrupt. Like, there's no reason for Ash, because even in the original Alien, Ash, they didn't know Ash was a
Yeah.
robot. Why would they
Oh,
make multiple copies of Ash if
that's
the whole
true.
thing is they're trying to pretend that he's not there? The other thing is that thing didn't get blown out of the airlock. The Queen got blown out of the airlock. That thing got blown out of the airlock, tried to go back through the exhaust port, and Ripley blew it out of the sky. And it's like I don't have to think about these things. Like, that's suspension of disbelief between sequels. But when you force me to think about it
Yeah.
just so you can have a reference to the
Right.
original
Yeah,
Alien,
Right.
just don't
then
bring it up.
it becomes a point of contact. Like,
If anything, if they just showed up on this space station, there's no explanation from an Ian Holm type robot, and they're just like, we don't know what happened here, but we got to get out. That is a stronger film than like the
yeah,
10-minute exposition-y scene of.
and then
By
like
the
it
way,
cuts to,
all
like, there's a
this,
cool
yeah.
scene where it cuts to the
Yeah.
tunnels they were in. You just see a bunch of facehuggers running,
Yeah,
and so
he
then
loves facehuggers.
it pops out of the girl, the bald girl, and she's like, and again, like, it's also
Right. That
weird
was
'cause
in you
nobody's
for a
like, hey, there's
while.
probably something, and she knows there's something in her. And like, even the prisoners
Yeah.
knew, like, oh, let's freeze her. We can freeze her. And apparently these kids who like have been studying cryo chambers for like 10 years don't think let's freeze
Right.
the girl who just might, who
Yeah.
knows
She
she's
has the
infected
light
because she has like an
X-ray.
X-ray
Yeah.
and she does it. But then
Well, she
Yeah.
does it like minutes before.
And
But they
then-
also, we should say too, they almost do this weird thing where, because in Alien, it's very ambiguous the time frame. Like it's like, okay, it could
it's not
be
like
days.
5 minutes though.
No. Yeah, it's very like it could be like few hours, few days. In this movie, they're almost on a very tight time frame because they're like, we're gonna crash in 52 minutes.
Yeah.
And like this thing is just in you, it's out of you, it's an adult. Within like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
you are giving birth to a full grown
Where-
alien.
At least I always thought that there was a couple of days between Ash.
Yeah.
Between
It wasn't instant
it
at all.
coming out of
It-
John Hurt and him getting it.
Yeah.
Especially because they've already left.
It's kind of
the
like a
planet,
celebration
and
whenever
so
it
they're
happens
kind of
to
just
him.
going back home.
They're like having like
And
a
then
little
there's
party.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, because they're like, great, and it's like a few hours, and they're like, how
Yeah.
you feeling, buddy? And then in this one,
Yeah.
it's just instantly like, oh
it instantly
no.
pops out. It instantly gets in. But then it does cut to a cool scene where like it goes out. Like in
Yeah.
5 seconds, it's already like grown into a full alien. But there's
Yeah.
like a little cocoon
I like
that
the
it's in that
cocoon.
we've never really seen.
It had
I thought that was cool.
the
It kinda
weird
looked like a
sticky.
vagina.
I didn't mind
Like,
it.
comes
Yeah,
out.
that
That
was
was good.
fine.
Yeah. But then like it cuts to a scene where like the
Mhm.
cutting guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna electrocute," and he electrocutes the shit out of it. And then he's like Billy Crudup. He's like, "Let me look. Let me put my entire face in this thing." No real
Yeah,
reason.
yeah.
But
This
then
thing
it-
that's leaking acid onto
but
the
then,
ground.
like we kind of glossed over this, but that guy who hated Andy because Andy's cousin robot killed his parents.
Right.
He's the other
I didn't
people
understand
behind.
why
Like,
he
he's
ran
ready
off
to
so
kill them
fast.
all. He does not give a shit about them, which is like, and it's also like he doesn't know that they're gonna quarantine, and also like, buddy, you have one character trait,
Yeah.
and it's that you don't like when people get left
Right.
behind. How is that literally the next? I don't know anything else about
fucking
you.
nonsensical as hell.
He's just a jackass from scene to scene.
But then it also cuts into a cool scene because he like zooms it and it kind of like scares him and he gets some acid on him and then acid slowly like disintegrates him, which again, that's something we hadn't seen before. We had always seen the acid kind of touch
I like that
people,
too.
but not to that degree. I thought that was cool.
When
like,
he sees his fingers and like his fingers are all like, little, it was like, ah, fuck. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was good. And so then they get to Romulus. So the ship is
unnecessarily.
They
unnecessarily
have the Remus ship, which is where they're at, and then they have the Romulus ship. And I'm not joking, guys. As soon as they get to the Romulus ship, it's like Universal Horror theme park haunted house.
Oh my god, this sequence!
Which sequence are we talking about?
I hated the next sequence where Andy's like, "Oh, we got to get our body temperature down."
This part was pretty boring. I zoned out.
So we can do the stealth horror crouch walk through this, which is also like that's not how facehuggers have ever worked. They just kind of attack anything they see.
That was so random.
And also, like, because he goes, okay, so they're trying to get through these facehuggers. They have to. Andy, I went to the bathroom right before, so I don't know exact reasoning. But they're like, if everyone has the same body temperature and doesn't move,
if you get your temperature down, they can't see you. Almost like the Predator, but not really.
Like, the reason I'm in this room right now is because it's about 98 degrees, and if I'm over there where there's no air conditioning, I'm gonna sweat regardless of whether I want to or not. Like, it's insane for them to be like, "Oh, you're gonna make it as long as you don't sweat or move." It's like, well, those are two things they're gonna be doing, Andy. Like.
Yeah, and it's like the hottest ship ever. Yeah, they're like, oh, don't sweat or get too scared. Don't do anything that would be scary in a haunted house, or the monsters will pop out. And he's like, okay. It's also, I don't know. It's just very like, well, Andy, they're not going to attack you or robot. Just go in and like grab them.
They're not going to like
throw stuff them in something.
And we already know he can. Or like Andy, grab them.
Yeah.
Or like go turn on the other thing and then come back. When they're all out again.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, you don't have a body temperature to regulate.
It's smart.
It's just it is the most video gamey. Like, slowly tilt the stick forward to walk through this hallway. You know.
Another thing, and I mean, this might have just been me, but I always thought like in Aliens, the reason that they're attacking Ripley and Newt is because they're out of the egg and they're about to die. I never thought that the facehuggers could live that long out of the egg. They're in the egg. But in this one, they're just kind of hanging out all the time. It's like, well, why don't you just be the alien if you guys can live outside this environment? And so it's just like, it's a weird thing. But they get through that. Oh, but then they're going through, and then like the girl's sister. Also, real fast, there's one Latina in this movie, and she's a teen mom.
Some asshole.
What the hell?
Oh yeah, she's pregnant. Pregnant by just some guy. Yeah, not even.
Was it Hector? But she's pregnant and she called and she's like, I want pickles and ice cream.
Extra large.
And they're like, and then he answers the call. It's like, buddy, I know that it's your sister, but we gotta get through this. We're about to all die. So it's like, and then Andy,
you sure you want to go down there?
I'm like, what are you doing? But they get through. And then they get to the Nostradamus set.
Yeah.
From the original Alien.
Yeah, it's very of that.
I did like, I mean, at this point I didn't know it was just going to be references for the rest of the time, but there's like a part where Ash, I'm not going to call him whatever his name is in the movie, he's Ash. Ash is like, oh yeah, these are the perfect killing machines, and then they're like, oh, what were you going to do with them? They're like, we're going to try to splice them with humans. You know that thing that only Ridley Scott wants to do?
I was going to say, yeah.
Hey, the French guy who made Resurrection wanted to do it too, and it's the worst part of the film. So...
And then I was like... And he was like, so what we wanted... Or he was like, humans are incapable, so we had to test their limits. And there's a very funny scene, like, while he's saying that, that's kind of the line of dialogue he's talking about. There's like a rat, and it's just sitting there, and then a big lever just crushes it. And then he's like, yes, our very just scientific experiments. I was like, buddy,
we had a hydraulic
these are
press,
Tom and
so we
Jerry
just squished a
cartoons.
rat. Fuck it.
And then he's like,
for Imager, for YouTube.
he goes, luckily, I saw this movie in a pretty empty theater, because then he's like, oh, and then we had to capture their essence, and I said out loud, the black goo!
Yeah.
The black
Yeah,
goo
he
makes
even-
the return
He
to the
says in this
franchise.
he's like Wayland spent his life trying to find immortality, but we did find it. It's like,
I
did
know.
Wayland like just sent out a mass company email before Prometheus? Like, where he's like, by the way,
Yeah.
here's
'Cause
where
they-
I'm gonna be
There's
later.
like he goes, oh, and then we found this like
Yeah.
secret to life, and it shows you the vase from Prometheus.
It must
I was
have
like,
been.
Who sent
They-
that to David? What the hell? And
Yeah,
also,
I think so.
Is David
and they
just
also they did you
courier
guys notice
servicing
that
shit
whenever
back?
they were showing that the score did the bum bum bum. bum. I don't know. I liked that reference. That was such a weird reference.
yeah,
I was
I
like,
loved it.
hell yeah.
I like that one because I think that was Ridley
Please.
Scott being
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah,
you can
yeah.
direct it, but you're putting this scene in.
Yeah, you're putting this is another example of the characters not paying attention to what's on like the view screens, because it shows the sequence of them injecting the black goo into a rat, and they're like, look, it healed the rat, it's doing great. And then they're like, all right, well, let's move on, and they walk out of the room, and then it just pans over to that
Yeah, and it
same
looks
rat
like-
cage,
doesn't it
and the
blow
rat
up?
has like grown monstrous and died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you guys
Would
should
you
have like
watch how
looked
this
2
turns
feet to
out?
your left.
Does it have
And
a
been like,
happy
hey,
life?
is that the same rat? Yeah,
That's another weird thing because Rook. Oh, well, okay. So then Rook tells him like, hey, Ash tells him, hey, okay, so if you take this black goo back to
Mhm.
your ship, I'll turn on your ship and let you go home, or we're gonna crash into these rings of this planet. It's up to you. And so they're like, well, we got to do that. And then the girl, the one girl, like they're getting back to the ship, and then the sister, like the alien comes out. The sister's like gonna fight it, and they're trying to help her.
Yeah.
That was a cool sequence too. Like the alien parts were cool.
That
It
was
was just
that
the
was
one
weird to
alien.
me.
I like
Just it was very like the alien was watching, and then
I like that.
Andy's like, oh, I
Oh,
can't
yeah,
open
yeah,
the
that was
door,
cool. I
which
remember
will
liking that
attack
part.
us.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
Well, but
thanks,
you got
Scott.
me though.
It
You
just
got
reminded
me.
me that I did not like that part.
and then like, but it's just the way it was filmed was very like, oh, and then it just grabs her out of frame, and that's it. Like it's very, and then you find out later it didn't kill her, but it's also like,
Yeah.
what a weird anticlimax to this scene. I don't know.
I like. There's like a part where she's at the door and she's like banging on, like open the door, and they're trying to get it open, and they're like, Andy, open it, and Andy's like, oh no, it's right
Yeah,
there, and it's
yeah,
waiting. And you see
literally
the
right
alien
there.
like perched, ready to jump.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
You
great.
see the alien
But
rubbing its
then-
hands together.
yeah.
Then the
Just
alien,
waiting.
yeah, he's twirling his mustache. But then, like, okay, so far these people are like 3-0 against the
They are
alien. Like everyone who
incapable.
they see touches it dies. And they're like, open the door, Andy. And he's like, no, you guys are old morons. You'll get killed immediately. And then the girl's like slapping him, and it's like, oh, and then Andy goes, I thought you liked leaving people behind. That's when they should have played the Prometheus score.
Yeah.
They should have shown David like looking over him like Yoda.
Let's get video game as hell.
Just smirking in approval.
Yeah.
Like he likes when David comes whenever you're mean to a human.
Yeah.
But then they're like, open the door, and it's like, again,
Mhm.
Andy, like, I trust Andy that he knows that thing's gonna kill you guys. You guys are morons. So, like, I don't feel bad that they want him to open the door, and he just does it. And then, like, the alien literally takes her up to wherever his lair
Yeah.
is. And then the brother's like, I
Right.
could still get her.
Do you
And
see
it's
what
like,
you're up against,
You
my friend?
can't. You can't.
Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This is also when they get guns in the movie.
Oh, the
becomes
auto aim.
Aliens for
I
about
like the
10
auto
minutes.
aim. I thought that was
Um,
cool.
but not in a good
That
way.
was badass.
See,
The-
See, and I think it just depends on how much you care about like the endless references. Because that seemed like they get the gun from aliens, and again, I'm like,
Yeah.
so alien gun technology hasn't changed in 200 years since between Alien and Alien. And
that
then
would
I'm
be the
like,
one thing I think that would get better for like
Well,
the dystopia.
one thing I know gets better is shoe fashion.
I
Why is
mean,
it the same shoe
they
from
were
Aliens?
going
That's
with the
200
cassette
years in the
futurism
future. Are you
stuff
telling me
hard
that
on this one for sure. which I thought was cool. It's like not doesn't make any sense, but I like.
Well, this is
looking at it.
It's the. It is the Rogue One thing where everyone hates how the prequels looked, so they're like, no, Rogue One's just going to look like A New Hope, and this one's like, oh, everyone hates the Prometheus iPad, so we're just going back to like hard 70s sci-fi.
I don't mind that, but it's more so to me like it's the exact same shoe from Aliens. And like if I look at the New Balances that I bought last year and New Balances I bought this year, they're completely different. And it's like I don't want to have to think about this, but when you're referencing something I've already seen and I know what time that takes place in, it's annoying that you guys didn't put that much effort.
This is
it's
another
supposed to be for fans. Like we're supposed to be like, hell yeah, but it's like
this is another thing that bothered me because Andy's like, oh, by the way, don't shoot the guns because we're on like the lowest level, and yeah, the acid will melt through, we'll breach the ship, we're gonna die if that happens. But maybe if you aim it at them, they'll hesitate, and it's like, oh, that's interesting because I've seen the movie Aliens.
They're not scared of us whatsoever,
and I know they won't hesitate at all. They don't. Yeah, and they don't care if they die. They just mindlessly will attack you.
Also, I've seen
but it works. They do hesitate in this movie for some reason.
So far in this movie, anytime a facehugger jumps at you,
you can do this and you'll miss. You just go.
They don't ever look.
And the facehugger just flies by. Bye. It's so easy. Yeah, we are on story mode, you guys. We are on
Sometimes
story
that
mode.
Multiple times, yeah.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
And so then
Unlimited continues.
And again, it's such a weird. Then they go into this room where they have to get to the ship because they're like, take the Prometheus juice, go over there, and so then they open this door and it's literally the walls from Aliens, and then we find out that there's like a bunch of aliens. But like, I watched this movie called Aliens, and in that movie, those aliens found a way to take over that space station in like 10 seconds. Anytime Hicks was like, let's go to this room, 5 minutes later, that room was overrun with aliens. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, they go everywhere. So I'm like, why haven't they left? Especially like,
why are they just in this one area of... They're only in that area, and the movie is almost the same movie if there was only one alien here and they didn't have guns, because they only exist to be in this hallway.
Especially when they add that caveat of, oh, well, you can't even shoot them, like it'll reach the hull, which that sounds familiar. You can't shoot them because there's a bomb, like you're on the fusion reactor. Seen it. And like that would have made more sense if it was one alien. And like maybe they could have shot around it and then like, oh, it got scared, and so now every time you aim at it, something like that. But having it be a million aliens, it's like, no, they'll just keep coming. Like they don't stop. And also,
they know. I mean, they know that it's just a horde mode. Like they're just gonna rush you. Like we've seen in the movie Aliens that this
they literally do not care about anything but murdering.
That's what I'm saying. Like every part of this movie feels very separate from every other part of this movie. It's like, oh, now we're doing Prometheus. Now we're doing Aliens. Now, unfortunately, we're doing Resurrection soon.
Well, so there's a cool sequence, but it's like so devoid from the story.
Which part is it?
If you guys are gonna go see it, I just say go see that part.
Oh, I thought it was cool.
Unless William, do you want the gravity part?
Yeah, I liked it.
Oh.
I thought it was
Oh
cool.
man, but it ends with the worst reference in the movie.
Oh yeah.
I fucking hated this. Where they're basically like they turn the gravity back on, and then Andy is about to the girl's about to get owned. Rain is about to get owned by the last living alien because they just got all the rest. So he jumps on the alien and shoots it, and he goes, "Get away from her, you bitch." And I was just like,
but he says it like, it's such a weird line because he says it like, and I thought he takes such a pause between "get away from her" and "bitch." And I thought that was like, okay, he just said "get away from her."
Yeah, if he says "get away from her," that's whatever. But
and then it like zoomed into her face, and he's like, "You bitch," and he's even like a little bit ashamed.
I know you could almost tell the actor's like, "Do I have to?" It's like the Arnold doing the Terminator 3 lines, where it's like it doesn't make sense anymore, but it's an iconic line. Yeah.
So then, and then there's a hilarious scene again. They're in the elevator before they have to fight and then Andy like gets hurt, So Rain's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go save Andy," and he tells the girl like they find the sister, and she's like been cut in the neck, so she's bleeding to death. And they're like, "We can save her," and they're like, "What if we hit her with the Prometheus juice?"
Yeah.
And then they're like,
Look,
"No, I mean,
I
look at what
went
it
back
did
and
to
watched the
everything."
mouse video. It wasn't
Yeah,
good.
look at everything on the
they're
ship.
like, they're like, "Let's just get her. Let's get her back." And they're like, "It
Yeah.
won't matter because we can take her. You know,
You'd freeze her, yeah.
we'll freeze her up there." And then like they get to the elevator and Andy gets hurt and she goes and Rain goes, "Just get up there and start the ship and leave without us, and I'll find my own way home." Then we find out to get up there, she's bleeding to death and can't walk. She's gonna go up the elevator, then she has to go across the hall, up a set of stairs, across another hall that's on the second floor
Yeah.
to get into the
Right,
ship.
right.
Like, Rain, girl, you left her to die. Like, what other option? And so
she
Yeah, it's just
black
her
goos
90s
up.
thing.
She's like, you know what? Hit me with that goo.
despite her not really knowing what that black
Yeah.
goo is,
I don't even think she was
This was like a
conscious
power
when they
up in a
discussed the
video
goo.
game.
She's just like, you know what? Sounds
Yeah.
she was
Fuck
like,
yeah,
"What's
dude."
this?"
One last high,
Yeah.
baby.
And then she gets the black. And again, like we just saw a video of a rat get smashed. They gave it the black goo, and then it like reconfigures its body. But like that doesn't happen to her. She's like, I mean, she's a little better, but she's still limping and all messed. It would have been cool if like
Yeah.
she puts on the black goo, that elevator opens, and she just walks out. You know, like she's fine. And we'll find out later she's not. But like then that part happens. So then they kill the aliens, and they're like, "Let's go back to the ship." And then again, listen, I always tell my actors, whatever you feel comfortable with is what you can wear, especially like in bedroom scenes. You know, like if you're gonna reference one of the most famous underwear scenes in the entire history of cinema, you can't put her in pajamas like a little college kid. What the hell was that? Like,
Yeah.
don't
Like,
do that. Don't put her in any
Yeah.
underwear. Put her like keep her in her clothes. Like
She's in Cookie Monster sweats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's wearing like one of those beanies that has like the Teletubby ears. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So then they're like, then they put her to sleep. They put the sister to sleep, and they're like, we're gonna go. And then they're
No.
like, oh wait, is she asleep?
Yeah.
She's not. But if you've seen Alien Resurrection, you know what's about to happen. So then she bursts an alien.
Yeah.
That looks like a mix between the alien from Alien
It is.
Resurrection.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
I thought it should have
It's
looked
an
like
engineer
whoever
with a
was the
tail,
dad
basically.
and the mom
Yeah.
at the same. That would have been cool if it would have been kind of like an Annihilation thing, where like that would have been
Yeah.
so much scarier.
Yes.
But I did like how the
Oh,
monster
that would have
looked. I
been
thought that was
cool.
like the best part of the movie. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah. I did like that it
I
looked
think it
like
was
an
weird.
engineer, but I didn't
Liked
like
it.
that
I
they
also
did
like.
that
I
again.
don't like the engineers
If I
didn't
would've
make
seen that in the video
aliens
game,
to
I
look
would've
like
been scared.
them. You
That's
know what
how
I
felt
mean?
about it when I was watching it, which
I was
isn't
just-
that fair. It does.
I
Yeah.
guess I agree. It feels like it came from a video game. And as the resident Resurrections defender of this podcast, I still contest it's the third best Alien movie. I did not want them to take the ending of Resurrections and do it again this time.
I will say, as someone who thinks Resurrection is a fun time, I did
100%.
think that
Very
this
much
design
so.
of the alien was better than their design of the
Unquestionably.
alien.
That, yeah, I
If-
mean that's
if that
unquestionably.
If that design had the combo penis
know.
vagina, it would have won.
Maybe in
But,
5
hey,
years
but
we
you
could
want
have
to
gotten
censor
the
yourself,
weird
you're getting censored.
genitalia.
Get put behind. Yeah, because I did like that it was suckling on her. Like there's a like when he gets birthed and he's all big and he's looking at the mom. She
Yeah.
she starts lactating and she looks and it's black goo. And I thought that was cool. And then
Yeah.
later when when they go find her, he's like suckling on her because
Yeah.
he doesn't have. He has like a tongue that has like a little.
They definitely cut this because they didn't want to like show it, which I'm fine with. I don't know. I was very
I also
like,
was too, yeah.
I'm ready for this movie to be over, so let's just get to the end.
Yeah.
This movie feels very this is definitely one of those movies where even if you're enjoying
Yeah.
it, you do
When it
feel
was
like
an hour
every
in, I
scene
thought I
goes
was
on
already
over.
I thought I was ready for
It's
the third
very-
act. And then I was like, oh my god, it's
Yeah.
been fucking 45 minutes. Shit.
Yeah.
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 And so then
She
just
has to
kind of all
fight it
is whatever
essentially.
at that
She
point.
has to fight it, and you're like,
I don't
okay.
even really remember what happened that much.
Well, then they're like,
Oh
she has to get into a suit,
yeah.
but can it be any suit?
Oh
No, it can't. It's
yeah.
not even the suit from the end of the first Aliens. I guess he thought that was too derivative. It's the suit from the beginning of Aliens. Why? Why is the
But
suit in
this,
there?
but
What's
yeah,
happening?
it's just. I actually do feel like as she was like fighting it, I felt like my audience just deflated. I saw this in a pretty full theater, but it's very like because you know exactly because it's just like Resurrections. She makes a hole in the ship.
Which was
She's
another
getting
weird
it,
thing. Yeah.
and then it gets it gets knocked out of the ship, and then
Covenant.
like burns up in the atmosphere. Like it's just very like yeah, we know what's gonna happen.
The
Let's
weird
get
thing
to
is that it died the same way.
Yeah.
Like, why would you also kill it the exact same way as in Resurrection?
Maybe that's his favorite
that's
one.
what I'm saying. It's
Made
such
that
a
connection.
weird.
And I think that becomes the issue of the movie overall. Is that at the beginning, the facehugger stuff, the annoying character stuff, that's all Alvarez being like, "This is my alien movie. This is what I'm doing. I hate every human being, so they're making them annoying as shit." And I'm like, cool. The facehugger stuff, even like I would have even not minded this version of the mob if like everything doesn't end in a reference. It felt like I was running to the next like checkpoint to be like, oh yeah, there's Bishop, there's
like
Hicks,
a theme park
there's,
ride.
like, you got the Riddler award, like everything was like and like yeah, and I think to me one of the disappointing things about this is that up until this point, every single director who made an alien movie, and of course this is all speculation, but I don't see how it's not. Every single director who made this alien movie made a movie that like they made it different enough so it felt like their movie. And Alvarez gets there for about 20 minutes, and then after that, it just becomes
I would
Ridley
agree with that.
Scott's
Yeah,
Alien, and then it
100%.
becomes James Cameron's Alien, and then it becomes
it's very
Alien
very
Resurrection.
checklisty. Like I don't necessarily like Covenant. I would say like Covenant's probably like one of the weakest ones, but
for sure
you feel Ridley Scott's like vision throughout the whole thing, or like David Fincher hates Alien 3. But you could like see his like trademarks in it. You're like I could see like his style, like
and I think like that's the thing, and I think that's maybe why Covenant isn't as hot.
Yeah,
it's the second time. It feels like a rehash a little bit as well. But I think like if you think of Alien, like I think of the scene where Alien 3 where the thing is falling, the flare is falling, and it hits the oil and everything blows up.
Right.
I think of that scene in Aliens where she gets in the mecha suit. That's very James Cameron. You see the scene from Alien where it's like that's all atmosphere. That's very Ridley Scott. Even like the weird French comedy of Resurrections, you see they're bursting through with they pick these directors who have very specific tastes, and they're bursting through this Alien movie.
Right.
And they didn't let Alvarez do it. Yeah, it's chest bursting. They didn't let Alvarez do it, and it feels like it feels like I said, it feels like a AI or a committee made this movie and said, "Where's the Alien Resurrection part for Josh who likes Alien Resurrection?"
I would agree with all that.
I don't like that part of Resurrection.
Most, just
I agree.
Anyone could have made this movie, like
maybe.
Yeah.
Kind of gamey, kind of theme parky, very
The most disappointing thing is like you look at Prey, you look at The First Omen, and those are prequel movies made by Fox under Disney, and they do not feel like rehashes. Like The First Omen, at the end I was like, oh yeah, this is a prequel to The Omen. That's crazy. And in Prey, it's a completely it wasn't even the Predator fighting against Native American. It was that Predator. It wasn't the Predator from Predator 1. It wasn't the Predator from Predator 2. The weapons were different. The time frame was different. That guy thought, how would a Predator look 200 years in our past? Fernando, he looked at it and he said, how can I fit more references in this movie? And I think knowing what he did with Evil Dead, I don't think that he wanted to do that. And you feel it at the beginning. And I could have I would have been okay with the stupid characters and kind of some of the dumber scenes, like the acid scene was cool. It didn't make a lot of sense as to why they did it, but it looked cool, and I would have been cool with that. But it's kind of like, resurrecting Ian Holm, you're referencing something that I already know about, and I don't want to
Yeah,
see
totally.
another version of something I already like. I want to see your version of this thing I like, so I can get a new story on it. And so, like, that's to me, that's what made it
Yeah, that sucks.
disappointing
That
more
sucks
than
to
anything
know.
else. And
That
of
sucks
course, using
that
AI
that
is just
happened.
kind of garbage. But like,
Yeah,
aside
that does bring it down. But I also like I do agree like because the kind of like quarreling teens, especially at the beginning where they're still
Yeah,
on the planet,
yeah.
it feels very reminiscent of his Evil Dead movie,
Mhm.
where they're all kind of like friends, but they're kind of shitty to each other. And you can see an arc for Andy. I would almost say Andy's the only one who kind of gets an arc, but it almost doesn't like really get anywhere because it's like Andy's this like kind of secondary thing to her, and he's like, I just want to do what's best for Rain. He gets the upgrade. He's like, oh, I'm a company robot now. I'm gonna like do the company. And then near the end, he gets like injured briefly, so she takes like the chip out of him. He's like, oh, I'm normal again.
Yeah.
But it's like that's not really an arc. That's just a sequence of things that happen to him.
Right.
You just turned your Xbox on and off. That's not an arc.
It's just weird because like I would almost say if you're like, okay,
Yeah.
who's this about? Like in theory, it's Rain because she's the final girl, woman character of the. But it's almost the same thing as Covenant, where it's like, yeah, but she's not really doing much for
Right.
most
I don't
of
really
it,
give a
except
shit if
kind
she
of
goes to her
following
new
this
planet or
android
not.
that you clearly care about way
She's
more
a
than
sympathetic
her.
actress.
You,
but
the
that's great.
director,
Like, her personality is what you're really
so
right. But it's true. Like her character, you're not.
Yeah,
really...
I don't blame the actress at all.
I hope she gets there, but I don't know why. They don't give me a reason to care.
She's just kind of there.
And I think, like, again, like the Andy thing is a great example because they put that thing in Andy, and like there's that scene at the beginning where they're like, oh, we're gonna leave you, nobody cares about you, and Andy's like sad, and she's like, that's my brother. And like they could have done it where Andy decides to go against Wayland Yutani and override his directive and done it for her, and it would have shown that they're both learning.
Right. There's no long-lasting appeal there. There's no actual change.
Turns him on and off.
Right.
Like,
right.
That's not an arc.
Yeah. He doesn't overcome anything.
And you could have even done you could have even had a little scene where they're like, how did that, like, to keep it ambiguous, like, oh, Andy, how did that work? And he could have been like, I guess my program malfunctioning was worse than we thought. It couldn't even hold that one. Something to like keep it ambiguous, but at least to have an arc,
right?
Where it's like that's not an arc. That's just a problem.
Like maybe if like him keeping that chip would have been like it increases his intelligence like 1,000,000-fold. And it's like he wants that more than he wants to help Rain, and then he decides not to do it or something. Like just like anything like that's just another example of what you're saying exactly. Like it's true. Like it was just flipping a switch. That's a weak arc as fuck.
Right. And you think and again, annoying characters, Hudson is one of the best characters in the franchise. He's the most annoying character out of everyone. Like, I mean, granted he gets the cheat of being played by Bill Paxton, but you can do annoying characters in this franchise. Look at Alien Resurrection. You can do
Ron Perlman, the goat.
Add all these people. Yeah. Or it's that thing where there are so many ways that they could have gone with this, and they just every time they took the easy way out. And I think it kind of makes it disappointing because if I ever watch this again, I would not be paying attention. The mood to watch this, I just watch Alien or Aliens, and and if you're gonna watch if you're in the mood to watch Alien 3, if you watch Alien 1, that's not gonna scratch that itch because Alien 3 is so different. And so that's the problem with this movie. It's like this is the greatest hits, but I have
it's a greatest hits cover for sure. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I want to hear
the real girl.
It's like the Queen greatest hits by a bunch of random punk bands. Yeah.
Kids Bop was a good way to describe it. Yeah.
And I think it's I can understand why people would like this movie. I mean, the AI thing probably most people don't know about it. There is a lot of fun to be had. He's a competent director. He looks amazing the whole time. I mean, the sound design was great. Like when it's crashing, when the ship's crashing, everything is there. The actors, the main girl Kylie.
That's what she was from.
She was great in Civil War, another movie that was missed the mark. Yeah, Dora the
Yeah.
Oh, he
Explorer
was
did a
great.
great job. Like
He's
the
a really
girls are
good
doing
actor.
amazing.
He's
The guy
so
who plays
likable.
Andy, I think his name's David Johnson or something like
Oh yeah,
that.
he's really
He's
good. Yeah.
probably the best actor in this movie. And like there's that part where he turns on to like Wayland Yutani,
Yeah,
and like the whole movie he's
yeah.
just been like, as soon as he does it, he's standing straight up and he looks like a different person.
Hmm.
And his face is even more relaxed.
So good.
So he doesn't have like a sympathetic face anymore. That's an amazing performance. But it's like you already had everything you needed to make a cool, unique
Yeah,
alien
I can see
movie.
that. I
And
can
you
see that.
decided to make a fan film, and it's like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I don't get it. What was your theory on why they have facehugger rigs? Just Ridley Scott was like, put David's stuff in there. Was that
oh, see, and that's the thing. I think like Ridley Scott being so
I
on board with
know.
this movie, he had to have a
make?
hand in putting the Prometheus.
You
Nobody
think so?
wanted.
Yeah,
Whenever
because
whenever
none
I
of
got out
it
of the My
like.
movie, there were these two guys, like
Nobody
these,
wanted
like
to
they were
put
like
that
super
Prometheus
nerd kind
stuff
of
in there.
dudes. They stood up and they were just like, "It was so weird they put Prometheus stuff in there." And I wanted to be like, "I know," but I didn't know him, so I just like walked away. But I was like, "That is fucking weird, right? Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?"
Well, that is almost that is weird. That is definitely weird because like like Rogue One, I feel
Right.
I keep bringing it back to Rogue One because Rogue One is just playing the hits of like A New Hope,
Yeah.
but it knows that people hate the prequels, so they're not gonna have like prequel shit in there.
Right.
But this movie's like, no, we're
Yeah.
covering all of them, and it's almost like, oh, even the ones like people hated, like Covenant. It's like, but why?
And I think it goes to like how hard it is to get a movie made where like
Mhm.
James Cameron, and like we talk about this, James Cameron pitched Aliens, and since then they've kind of been like, oh, well, we need someone to make the new one. But it's like when you have that, and like sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get a Prey, sometimes you get a First Omen, both great movies
Yeah.
that like are individual from the film, but like sometimes you get this where it's like they're scared to take any risks.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get Robert Downey Jr. and Dr. Doom mask, like, but I think like it's tough for me as a filmmaker to reward a film that doesn't want to take chances because like I know what it took for me to make a film and I know what it takes to make a film, and it's like once you get in that spotlight, like
Yeah.
you
Swing
swing
for
for
the
the bases. You don't fucking try to bunt the ball,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is tough because
I think bunting
You
is
can swing for the
batting
bases
for
too.
the
It's
bases.
not like they can run the ground.
I think that's what that is.
It-
It could be an
it's-
in-ground homer.
No, I'm just
You
fucking.
gotta follow
I mean,
your
they're both
sports
the same.
metaphors.
Listen,
They're
buddy.
all it's all
Since
nonsense.
this is your last
today.
episode,
But like there was almost
Oh,
the
yeah.
MCU thing for a while where they're like, oh look, we're getting these like indie directors. It's like, yeah, but
Right,
you're
no
getting them to
personality,
sign off
whatever.
on like Captain Marvel, where they clearly didn't do any directing. They just like said yes to this existing shot list, and it's like, oh, now every Disney like owned
Totally.
thing is going to be
I can
that,
agree
and
with
this
that.
felt like the MCU Patty Jenkins version
Like,
of like an Alien movie.
how
you know?
cool? How cool
Yeah.
would it have been if the whole thing is like at the very end? Maybe there's 2 more aliens, and the whole thing takes place
That would
in
be
zero
tight.
gravity as they're trying to get to the
Yeah.
ship against zero gravity aliens. Because we know aliens can move pretty well in zero gravity. If you had taken all the money they used to make an engineer and use that into like one big finale where the ship is crashing, they're in zero gravity
Yeah.
fighting aliens, and like it's a cool like that's what I kind of thought was gonna happen. If they would be going up the elevator shaft, like there's so many ways they could play with that. And instead, it almost
Yeah.
becomes a sequence that
I
you don't
agree.
even really need to talk about because it has so little bearing on the rest of the plot.
That's what like I don't get too like the xenomorph design is so iconic, and ever since Resurrections, the goat, they've been like shining. And I get why Ridley Scott doesn't want to do it because he like hates like his own franchise. He hates the world.
Yeah.
But it's like, why did you not have it in that much? Like,
Right.
why is the engineer
Yeah.
Hume alien in more of the movie than the actual
Yeah.
aliens? It's just a weird choice to me,
I think at this
Yeah,
point we need
let's
to
just
give
get it out of the way.
let Ridley Scott make his 3rd Prometheus
Right,
movie,
David's
so we can be done
Romulus.
with it.
And David's Coven,
Yeah.
David's planet of Horde
Also,
or
that's
whatever.
another thing.
Alien David.
If we're just gonna do that, let's make it David. Why wasn't the robot David? How he
I
did that?
actually brought that up, and I think it's that Michael Fassbender wouldn't do it because he's like, oh, he like loves working with Ridley Scott, so I could see him just not like signing off on this.
Oh,
If
fuck
they
yeah.
were real heads, they should have made it Winona Ryder, right?
Um, Michael Fa- Michael Fassbender did a X-Men Apocalypse. I don't know how.
Well, he
I
was
don't know how
locked into a
true that is.
contract with those films. All
I don't
right,
even know if I ever saw that
no
one.
one was excited to
And
be an
maybe a
X-Men
film we'll be talking about one
Apocalypse.
day called
Yeah. I don't know if I saw that one.
X-Men
Is that the one with
X-Men Dark
fucking with
Phoenix, the best of
Stark?
the bunch. Um,
Oh yeah,
Oh.
no, that's the one with Jessica Chastain.
that's the one where Jennifer Lawrence desperately wanted to get out of the
Which is the
contract,
one
so
that has
she's
the
clearly being
the
filmed
Stark girl
separately from everyone else, and she's in like 10 minutes of it.
from Game of Thrones?
Yeah,
Sansa.
Stark Girl.
Isn't she in
I
Dark
don't know
Phoenix?
what that means.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you
Sansa.
meant Tony.
Yeah,
That's
she
no,
she is. She's
that's
in like
looks
3
like
of
a
those
few of them.
movies.
So she's in
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
one too.
She's in
Yeah.
she's in the worst one and the
okay.
best one.
Future
she's in Dark
Past.
Phoenix.
Yeah. Wait, Dark Phoenix isn't the best one by
All right,
anyone's
I've started a fire.
And
I'm
even
putting it
Bryan
out. I'm putting it
Singer's
out.
metric.
It goes X-Men movie. Okay, before we finish X-Men movie, it goes. Yeah, we'll talk about it. It's Deadpool.
Oh wait,
and
real quick, Andy, as the only person who's seen both Alien Romulus and Deadpool, which had more?
No, now you started a fire,
references
John.
to previous
See, and
movies?
I didn't want to bring it up because, well, I don't want to bring it up because it's so silly. You shouldn't even think it. This shouldn't ever come out of anyone's mouth, especially not Sean Levy's. The difference is Deadpool uses its cameos in a smart way that advances the plot of the story.
That's
This movie does
crazy.
not do that.
You're giving it to Deadpool over
There-
this one.
the best
That's
thing
wild.
about the best thing I liked about Deadpool is there's not really that. There's like one or two scenes where a character is just there just to wink at the audience. For the most part, they use every cameo they have. Like the most egregious stuff is like it'll be like an establishing shot where they show like a comic accurate Thor helmet, and you're like, oh look, there's that. There's like a sequence where it's fun, but it's all connected
Yeah.
to the storyline. Like there's no, oh well, here's a pulse rifle, here you go.
Yeah,
It all
here's
feels organic.
here's the red bandana.
What
Yeah.
the movie is, and so I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
the best thing of Deadpool, and it's the thing that I was most
Yeah,
surprised
it comes
about.
on HBO
So yeah,
or Disney.
This
When I
movie
eventually watch it, I'll
not
keep
do
that in mind.
Yeah.
So.
but yeah, go watch. That's my
Whatever.
recommendation. Go watch
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine. There's no AI in that one.
Yeah, I guess my recommendation through all
Yeah.
these movies we reviewed is just watch Alien and Aliens because they're perfect and
Yeah.
everything else is kind of bad
I
in
would say it was
comparison.
okay.
But this is
I thought it was
especially
alright.
bad in comparison. So
Yeah.
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 We did not revisit
Those are pretty hard
AVP.
to-
Those movies
I started
also
watching one of them
were probably filmed
on
by
Hulu,
committee,
and it
but we
was-
didn't even bother
it's pretty
discussing
bad.
them. So
It's pretty awful. I would say,
All right.
yeah.
I mean, I thought it looked good. It's a good
William,
theater
any last
experience.
words?
It was like pretty loud, and I don't know. I had fun. I mean, talking about it doesn't really hold up under scrutiny, but like, I've also like
William's like,
and like not pay
okay.
attention to them. So it's like
William,
I put this in the same bag. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece, but
Yeah.
I've seen worse movies.
it's also, yeah. I think sometimes it's fun to kind of go see a movie where
Yeah.
it has this, like again, especially like right now when sci-fi movies are few and far between. It's kind of cool to go see a movie. Like there's a scene at the beginning. I saw it I didn't know this, but I saw it in like a theater where the screen goes all around the room.
Fuck yeah, dude.
That first scene where they turn on the ship and all the lights
Yeah.
go on across the whole.
Was it the
theater.
GXC, the
Nah,
AMC
it's
GXC?
crazy.
So
That's
I
what I
was
saw
like,
it in
this is
too.
awesome. Like,
It was
I loved
fucking
it.
crazy.
You know.
And like, yeah. And like they had like there's like they're on the,
Yeah.
we didn't talk about this because it's not that
I
important.
know.
But they're next to like these Saturn rings. That's what they're gonna crash into. Those Saturn rings looked amazing. Like all that stuff was so cool. And so it is kind of fun to go. That's why like if
Yeah.
it wasn't for the AI thing,
If it was
I would
anything
say
besides an
definitely
Alien
just go
movie,
check
it would have
out,
been
even though
totally
it's kinda
fine.
stupid.
Yeah,
It's
for
kind
the
of reference
spectacle, but it's yeah.
But the AI thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes it
that's
hard
also
to
true.
recommend because again, like the more we let them get away with it, the more they're gonna do it, and the more they're gonna take advantage. And like honestly, I'm not as worried about the people who are dead where they resurrect. I'm worried about
Right.
oh,
Let's just
Mark
invent a new
Hamill's
character.
still alive, but
that
we have
has
all
never
his voice
existed.
recordings.
Yeah.
Let's just have the Joker in this movie, even if he doesn't want to. Exactly. and like at a time when you like we saw the Mandalorian and it was like a cool take on the Boba Fett legend.
Yeah.
Like we didn't need anymore, and then 2 months or 2 years later, like, oh well, here's just Boba Fett. Like it always has to be a reference. It can't ever be an
Yeah, it's never it's never its own thing, and I almost feel like that.
Right.
That's the thing where it's like, stop calling attention to it. Just be
Right.
itself. I know there's only so much you do. You're constrained to making a franchise film, especially for like millions of dollars. But it's like you gotta just, I don't know, make
Yeah.
something your own. Which Ridley Scott definitely
Yeah.
did, and obviously people didn't respond super well to that. But it's still stronger in retrospect. I mean, that
Yeah.
Prometheus holds up like fucking
Again,
gangbusters.
if he
compared to
had,
this.
as we end this franchise, if he had
Yeah.
gone full hog on Covenant, it probably would have done just as bad.
Yeah.
But I would have enjoyed more answers being made. I wanted to see more engineers. I wanted to see the ones that look like elephants.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, that was Prometheus, guys. Next week it'll be Covenant, so you'll get to hear our thoughts on that one. It's 2 baddies in a row.
Yeah.
Then I think we're gonna take a break from horror and sci-fi because Halloween's Halloween, but we'll think about it. So find out what we see in 2 weeks. We had already recorded that
Yeah.
episode, so we're a little bit ahead. And thanks for joining us. Tell us what your thoughts are. We love the comments. Everyone who's been commenting. Yeah, check it out. We did get your recommendations. We're gonna be adding some of those. So stay tuned. We got fun stuff. See you guys next time on the Bomb Squad.